This segment is brought to you in part by the Canadian Historical Arms Society, owners of the Genesee Range, the premier recreational sport and training facility in Western Canada. See us online at historical-arms.com.
The Quiet Professional, a podcast about law enforcement, security, justice, and politics. We are digging deeper on the issues and going where the information takes us with access to experts and authorities. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Hey everybody, welcome back. Nathan Romas with you. Today we are going to be talking about crime prevention and about bringing people together, those who need to be in these discussions. For that, I have an organization here, a few representatives from the organization. We have the Alberta Community Crime Prevention Association here, and their mandate is to bring together community crime experts from across law enforcement, academia, and community advocacy groups to address crimes both urban and rural in Alberta communities. From the organization, I have Executive Director Jean Bota here and Director Becky Wylie-Jardine. Just a little background on both. So Jean, and I hope I get this right, and correct me if I get any of it wrong, but Jean, you served as the board president for the ACCPA between 2016 and 2024, so right up until real recent. And you also spent 2 terms as a councillor for the city of Red Deer.
The County of Red Deer.
County of Red Deer. And Becky, you were a 22-year member of the RCMP. And you currently are the head of the Justice Studies program at Red Deer College. And you also teach Justice Studies and Sociology courses. So welcome to you both.
Thank you. Thanks, Nathan, for doing this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm happy to get you on here. And people have been following on social media. I had some posts recently, so I hosted a panel at your conference, and it was here in Edmonton. Excellent conference, by the way. I had a ton of fun there.
Thank you.
It was, as we were saying just before we started recording, the connections that are made there, second to none. So there were some really good guests from right across Canada. And even after the panel, you see people coming up and speaking to all of us that were up there and, asking questions, which is the whole purpose of that, right? People are seeking out this info. So I thought it was really good, well run. So I just want to kind of give a kudos here on air to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of, we have to give our administrator, and we have a conference team that puts all that together. It's a huge undertaking, but it's well worth it.
Yeah, I know what it's like arranging guests for a podcast and chasing them down from week to week. Like, hey, I need this from you, or we got to schedule this or something. So I wouldn't even want to put together a conference. But on that, maybe we'll talk about the organization first, because I think it's really good to explain how people really do come together. So how this whole thing is organized. And then if you could talk a bit about what the ACCPA does, like explain, is this a lobby group? Is it just to educate people, or does it do everything in between? So whichever one of you would like to start, feel free. We'll talk about the ACCPA and what they do.
First of all, ACCPA was started in 1989, and it was an advisory group between the police and the government. Just due to the severe crime that was going on in the province at the time. So what they found was that they needed the community involvement. So the following year, in 1990, they changed the name to Alberta Community Crime Prevention Association. So I became involved. I had no idea this group existed. I became involved in 2016, and I was made aware of it through my role as a counselor, because I was very involved with rural crime at the time. And I had dragged Becky into the discussions. We were revising, or resurrecting, I guess would be more the word, some of the crime watch groups in our area. So Karsten Irby, who was with the Justice Department, mentioned to me after our meeting with the Justice Minister, he said, I would advise, why don't you get hold of this group and see if you can maybe start working with them. So I did reach out. It was many months later. Lillian Jones got hold of me, and kind of the rest is history from there. That was my question at the time, was like, okay, what is this group doing? Why are we in existence?
Mm.
And it was a connector between the rural and urban communities and the government and the police forces. What I saw was there wasn't a lot of rural participation around the table, around the board table. It was mostly law enforcement, a few agencies, but a lot of urban people. So what I did one year is I asked at the RMA conference, I asked Paul McLaughlin and his group, I said, can I get up and speak to the delegation and ask for members? Because I felt we needed municipal leaders to kind of step up, especially in the rural and remote rural areas. And we actually got 3 interested individuals, Corina Williams being one of them. And so that was kind of where things began and how they started. We needed to get out into the communities and really educate and inform people of what was going on, especially with emerging trans. And Becky and I were already doing that with our Rural Crime Watch group in Red Deer Lacombe. So to us, this was nothing different than, it was just on a bigger scale, getting out to the province. Now the conferences, they had been suspended, and Diane Haley, our administrator, came on board the same year I did. And we had our first conference in 2017 in Calgary, I do believe. Yes, 2017 in Calgary. And I think we had about 100, maybe a little less than 100 people. So it has kind of just grown from there. Mark Kay, one of our board members at the time, said, I would like to see a pre-conference workshop associated with the conference. And so we moved the next conference to Edmonton, 2018. We had 2 days of pre-conference sessions. And so that was kind of the beginnings of resurrecting it again and making everyone aware that we were in business again and we were out to educate people. So it's been a journey of taking everything from ground zero and kind of rebuilding it. And in 2020, I said to Becky, we need to have a vision. Like, we didn't seem to have any vision. We were just kind of throwing mud at the wall, if you can say, for a better term, for lack of a better term. And we met with a facilitator, Kirsten Herr, and she kind of got us, we had a visioning session in 2020. It was in June, so we got caught in that COVID. So it had to be done by Zoom. Okay. And actually, I will say I was very impressed with, we had all the board members in attendance, and there was some amazing stuff came out of it. But due to capacity and funding, there was only so much that we could do with our 4 objectives. So, Becky, I'll maybe let you continue from here.
Sure. So after that, then we got our group together, and we've had several conferences over the years. So going forward now, this last year, we were up to 250 delegates actually came to our conference. So we've multiplied, and then we had a separate visioning session last year where we actually changed our governance model for ACCPA. So now we have Jean as our executive director. We still have our president and board members, but we also have a paid position for a crime prevention specialist, which I will be stepping into at the 1st of June. So that's it's going to be a different step.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? At the conference too. So you had Minister Ellis there. so Minister of
Mhm.
Public Safety. And
Mhm.
so obviously you get attention from the provincial
Mhm.
side of things. I'm wondering, does a lot of your work take place at the provincial level, or does it include federal and municipal sides of things? Like, do you meet with everybody?
We do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, we do. We meet with, people who work in the federal Ministry of Public Safety. We work
Mhm.
really closely, though, with the Alberta government uh, bureaucrats who work in the public safety department. We work very closely with them, and they're very supportive of us,
Mhm.
which is really nice. And at a municipal level, not necessarily at municipal level, but
Okay.
we do have delegates that come to our conference that are from municipalities,
Mhm.
which is really good because then they learn about some of the current trends in crime and how to help to prevent it. And that's part of what our mandate is to educate the public about crime prevention, and that type of thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I feel like you guys are like a really good conduit between people on the ground,
Mhm.
right? The people right in the communities, and then
Yeah.
those levels of government that people don't get a lot of face time with. So you need somebody
Yeah.
in between. Uh, some of the stuff I see just in my own day to day work is it can get so fragmented, and
Yeah.
everybody's only got so much time in a day. So if you got to go to a policymaker or someone for funding, whatever it might be, they only got so much time in a day to listen to so many people. And
Yeah.
you don't want your message to get lost in there. You also don't want to get drowned out. So it's like, where's the good balance of like who speaks for you, but also makes sure that the right message is getting across. So do you find that people come to you, to the organization, with that expectation? You're kind of the middleman in there, the middle person of this whole communication strategy.
Yeah. Yes, we are. And I will say, we do have a very good relationship with the GOA. When we did our restructuring, or there was talk of it in early 2023, um, it's a matter of just picking up the phone and saying, "What do you guys think about this? Do you have appetite for this? We're proposing this," and we were met with, "Yes, put something together and let's have some discussion about it."
Okay.
So I feel we have an excellent discussion. We have an excellent relationship with them. With RMA, it's the municipal body for the rural areas. Because of my involvement as a former county councillor, I still have a lot of those relationships, and I've seen at the conference, and I've seen this over the years. We have RMA board members that are attending, so they're paying attention. And with the restructuring, like I've mentioned to our board and to our people, um, we need to make an appointment with RMA and make a presentation to the board and ask them to maybe be a partner with us or just help us to do some heavy lifting with the municipalities. So, yeah, you're right. We do have that rapport, which a lot of people don't have. So we're very fortunate to be there. And like Becky said, with the feds, Yulie Stoneberg, she reached out to us a couple of years ago. She's Public Safety Canada policymaker, manager, whatever. So again, she was there this year. So there's some really good relationships being forged in all this, which I think is really, really important when it comes to getting across those messages and making sure that we are making people aware and creating that awareness in what's going on. Yeah. Now, could we do better? Could we involve more? Yeah, you can. But it's a forever. You're always looking to do better and do whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it, I don't want to oversimplify it, but is it as easy as, someone brings you some issues, hey, our town is seeing this going on. They bring you the issues, and then you have the people that you can reach out to then and say, hey, we need to set up a meeting to talk about this. We need to come up with some ideas or strategize. Is that essentially the very basic version of it?
That's not exactly what we do, but if somebody came to us and asked, we would certainly be willing to help. But that's
Yeah.
not exactly what we do.
Hmm.
Ours is more of on a larger scale, letting the public know about what the current issues and trends are in crime prevention. And then, of course, getting our conference together. We're in the middle of a structural change, I think is the best way to put it.
Okay.
And so what we're looking to do is kind of be the umbrella for the crime prevention groups that are within the province of Alberta, and having everybody be on the same page so that when we put out messaging, it's all the same. So when we look
Okay.
at like Rural Crime Watch, we look at Crime Stoppers, we have Citizens on Patrol, and then ACCPA itself. So when we all work together, if we're putting out the same message, then everyone knows, because we have our fraud prevention group that puts together stuff in May about, or March, I guess it is, for fraud prevention. So a few years ago, not last year, but the year before, we had gotten together with the radio station, and then they put out public service announcements about different types of fraud, AI fraud,
Hmm.
all the different frauds that are happening out there, the grandparent fraud. And so that's what we're out there for, is to put out provincial messaging to the province that's consistent, and works for everybody to be aware of what the current trends are for crimes in Alberta.
Well, I will say this, and Becky's right in what she's saying, but we will never turn anybody away if they're looking for contacts within their communities. And this leads into our citizen-led group with the Alberta RCMP. It was a group established in May of 2023, Peter Tufik, with the Community Safety and Wellbeing Branch. He brought the 4 crime watch groups in Alberta together, which is the Rural Crime, Citizens on Patrol, us, and Crime Stoppers, and said, look, why don't we talk about one message, one group going forward with different emerging trends, whatever. And so that group has actually come together quite nicely. We meet quarterly, sometimes either in person or virtually. And it has the makings of a very good unified message going out across, not just with the with police forces, but with everybody.
Hmm.
So, and they are in the throes of getting some proper governance and putting together a package as to how we should look as a group. So, we do, like you say, if there's people that need assistance or whatever, we never turn them away or say, well, this or whatever. I mean, we'll seek out crime watch groups or get hold of Kimberly Hurst and say, hey, can you guys help these people, or what's going on?
Okay. One of the things I wanted to go back to that you mentioned earlier was about the low participation rate among rural groups or people. Is that something that you still see now? And then also on that, so is it still something that you're seeing, but also why do you think that was or is the case?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons for it. First reason, this is just my thoughts, or this is what we're seeing, is we have this narrative in the province that police can solve everything. And we have a lot of rural communities. I mean, Becky and I know of several where it's all about police, more policing, more this, more that, right? Not understanding that your social issues are much deeper issues, and police are not equipped to deal with these issues. That requires a community effort, which is a community safety plan, right?
I 100% agree, by the way. So I already like where this is going.
So to challenge that narrative can be very frustrating. And I've seen Becky in meetings stand up and say, look, your truck got stolen, were the keys in the truck? And they'll say, yeah. And she'll say, well, then what do you expect? Right. And, you have to, but here's another thing though, Nathan, you have to be of those rural or have that experience. Don't go in there. I always look at it this way. Don't go in there with your white shirt, because rural communities do not want to pay attention to that. And both of us know this because we're both from rural communities, and we understand what can happen. We saw this. It was at a community west of the city here a few years ago. We were asked to go out and do a talk. We went out, and hey, we're both confident. We know what we're talking about. Not a problem. And I heard someone say, "Oh, they're from Red Deer," and I remember getting kind of sick to my stomach, and I thought, "Oh my goodness!" And now I'm nervous. I don't know what to say. So it just happened that actually Becky and I are both kind of from that same community. And so when I did my opening comments, I just said, look, my grandparents were so and so, my mom and dad were so and so, they lived on Dovercourt Road, and you could just see the temperature come down in that room, right? So that is that's another thing that you kind of have to go through that barrier as well. And not that I blame rural communities, because nobody likes someone coming in telling them what they should be doing. One gentleman years ago explained it to me. He said, you have to be of that community, not just from that community. So to me, that's one of our biggest issues, as well as more police, more police, more police. So those are very hard narratives to get past sometimes. So and you kind of know the spots in the province where you have to have a little more thought when you're going into those communities or talking to those communities, or participating in those communities.
When you said Red Deer, someone looked at you funny. I thought it was going to be because if people haven't been there, you guys mix up the avenues in the streets, and it is super annoying trying to get around. I've worked down there for a few of the Hells Angels runs. So when we're monitoring those, and when you mix up the avenues in the streets, I was like, where the hell am I? So you know what? I think you pick some really good points to bring up there. Police as being the answer, like the end all be all. Hey, we'll get more police on it. It's like, I can tell you right now, a lot of police with the current system we're in, like when we talk about the revolving door of the justice system and everything, a lot of police just get discouraged and don't necessarily see, not that it's not the value in it, but they just, when you arrest the same person for the same thing over and over and over, you're like, who the hell else is helping me out here? Like, why is the rest of the system not picking up the slack or not doing their job? Like, we're all supposed to be a part of one team here, right? And police is, sometimes they're kind of like seen as the end all be all, or they, the problem or the solution. I say the solution starts with the law enforcement and ends with them. And it's like, no, law enforcement is one super small tool out of a whole bunch of things that are supposed to happen. And largely before police deal with somebody, I see it as, we are like at the very tail end of a bunch of systems that have failed a person a lot of the time. So education, health, the parents, like everybody. So people have had a lot of time with this individual, and then it's led to a point where all the adults can't handle it anymore. They call law enforcement. That's where I see police kind of coming in.
That's right.
So when you say like you left your keys in your car, well, that's unfortunate that it got stolen, but what did you expect? Like, you're the one in a million chance, and it did happen to you. And one thing I've worked in the area that I live in. I've done some overtime shifts in it, and I'll drive through the streets, and how many neighbors I see that leave their garage doors open overnight, and whether they forgot to or some just don't care. But I'll walk down the block and I'll just be hitting the button on the garage door opener to try and close it. So I'll just go down the street and like close a bunch of garage doors. And it's just like people need to take this stuff seriously.
Yeah.
And they need to be willing to take more of it upon themselves because, law enforcement can't be everywhere all the time. And even when we do make those arrests, as it stands right now, there's a good chance whoever was doing the crime is going to be back on the street. So,
before the ink is even dry on the paperwork. And that's, and you're right, it's part of the problem. And it's especially true in rural communities because rural communities are used to leaving their doors open, leaving their sheds unlocked, leaving the keys in the vehicles, right? And probably 15 years ago, all that started to change because the criminals got smart. Hey, you know what? Response times for policing out in rural areas, hey, they might not get there for 20 minutes to half an hour, depending. So, hey, let's go, do some break and enters or vehicle thefts on farms because they leave the keys in the vehicles. Perfect for us, right?
Yeah.
And so when you go out into rural communities, it's trying to change that mindset about, hey, this is the reality. This is 2024, 2025 now. You can't just leave your keys in your vehicles anymore because that's the reality of crime. Criminals are getting smarter and they know that out in rural areas, the response time is a lot longer for police to get there. And then too, going back to what you were saying about, policing, I always tell my students, hey, the reason that people call the police is because it's the only service that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And so everyone has that expectation. Yeah, the police are going to solve everything, but that's not the case. The police cannot solve these social issues that are happening in our communities now. Things like people with mental health issues, people with addiction issues. Those are the calls that the police, if you take, for example, the city of Red Deer, for example, 90% of their calls are for our safe injection site that we used to have here. That was where they spent the majority of their time, was down there responding to calls for service, right? And then two, if we go back in the history of Alberta or even across the country, back in the 80s, there was the idea that, hey, if we have closed down all the mental institutions that we have in Canada, it will save us money. But then they farmed out the people to, group homes in the community, but then they weren't allowed to hold the people. So the people left the group homes. So then they weren't on their proper medications and that type of thing. So then what did they start doing? They started self-medicating. Right. And so then you have addiction issues. This is a big, long process that's taken a long time to get us to where we are now. But the nice thing I'm seeing this with the current government, I have some other issues with them, but this is one of the good things that they have done are the drug courts. The drug courts and the treatment centers. I know back, how many years ago was that? I think when the UCP first got voted in under their new name, we were talking with our Rural Crime Watch. We were talking with the new Minister of Justice, and we're talking to him and saying, hey, look, these are the issues and problems that we're having in our communities. It's not just in cities, it's also happening in rural areas. There's no treatment centers. It can take you 6 months to a year, up to 3 years to actually get into a treatment center. There's not enough of them. And so the government, I do like their model about getting people help. And, if they want to get off of their addiction cycle, they're able to do that because now we've got more treatment centers in a lot of different communities across the province, which is a really good thing. That needs to happen because we do need to have treatment facilities for people. And then two, I think the government has realized that we need more people to deal with the mental health calls that are coming in because the police are not well equipped to deal with that either. So we have the police PAC teams. So we have a mental health specialist working with the police to go out and deal with the mental health calls. I mean, I don't think they're available 24 hours a day, but it does help take the pressure off the police when dealing with those mental health calls. And I believe Edmonton police have them Calgary City Police, I believe, have them as well. And then, of course, the RCMP have them here in the city of Red Deer, but they also have them out in the rural communities. Not every community has them, but I think they're trying to make more of those teams that can go out and deal with specific types of mental health calls.
Just this past week, when I was working, we had where one of the hospitals was saying they were full from the mental health calls. So they said, don't bring anyone else here. Otherwise, you can be waiting 5-6 plus hours. And I thought that was interesting because it's like, what other job can I tell somebody like, no, I'm full for the day. Like, I'm just not, I can't take people. It's like,
No kidding.
the police don't get to shut off a function in a day. So, it's when we shut down those hospitals, like you're saying. So, I think what gets missed in the discussions is, and this is like the politicization of a lot of things, but we'll shut it down. We'll save all this money.
Yeah.
Everyone cheers. It's like, we're doing great. They don't tell you the effects of that 6 months, a year, 5 years. Like, here's where that money's going to go because we stop the prevention at this point. Now we get to 6 months down the road. Well, we're spending twice as much dealing with people in a new way, or it just shifted the problem, or it's shifted the problem and created a new one. So now I have to just move police over there, and I'm spending money on police instead of the health stuff. And I find the conversations really lack depth. This is what I really liked about the conference was there were some people I saw, I didn't get to be there for the last day, but you had a few people on there that are controversial. I'll call them controversial on social media. And I like that because it's people that have had the experiences or been in those places where they've had those critical discussions. And I think we need to have both sides of it. And you need to let adults, kind of examine the whole situation. But a lot of what we kind of get fed from the political side or just through media is like half truths. And some stuff's kind of twisted. There are lies out there. Like, it's just a whole bunch of stuff. And people don't know what to believe anymore. They don't know what the truth is. Like, all this stuff around, providing drugs to people on the street, like the government. And it's like, is that good? Is that bad? I can find a million studies on both sides. There's advocates for both sides. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to think of that. So when I see groups like your group here, I think those are the ones that we need. That you need to have a really big voice. We need to kind of push that out there. Yeah. We need people to attend these conferences and really learn about it. I think it's probably one of the few places where you can actually get both perspectives to an issue, or at least you can go up with your questions after and ask the person yourself. Hey, I've been wondering this. Like, where could I find more info, or who should I talk to? And I find, that's probably one of the most beneficial places to do it. So
I just wanted to go back to what you're saying about what's happening. And I think the burden falls on our voters. Voters need to get informed about who they're voting for. Vote for people who actually know what the issues are and how to fix them. Just because they're the old Joe from I've known for 100 years, I'm going to vote for old Joe. Yeah, he's going to, right? That stuff should be gone by now. I'm sorry, we're a more educated, or we should be more educated and knowledgeable about who we're voting for. And so that we have people in key positions that actually know how to help solve some of the issues and problems that we're having in our communities. And when it comes to crime, and then we look at our governments, when they appoint ministers to certain portfolios, most of them have no clue what they're walking into, right? So if you have leaders and leadership that's going to do a good job, then they should be appointing people into positions so that they are aware of what the issues are. They might have some background, like definitely, I think in the most cases, provincially and federally, I think we've had, ministers that have either of public safety that have either been lawyers or they have been police officers or something like that. So appoint people that have at least a bit of knowledge about what portfolio they're walking into, right? Like this stuff just makes sense. It's common sense, but that doesn't mean common sense exists everywhere. But we as voters, we need to be more aware of who we're voting for and who we're putting into positions to represent us, because the good old Joe down the road that was the farmer for 50 years may not be the best candidate to represent us anymore. We need people who have knowledge, skills, education, right? Those are the people we need to, if they're running, or convince them to run and represent us.
I feel like we see that more at the federal level, where you're just like, what business, this person was in charge of finance yesterday. Now they're in charge of national defense. Like, those are very different worlds. And to be an expert, you need to be in each one for like 30 years. So it's like, that person's not that old. How are they in charge of those two things? So yeah, it's like, what kind of confidence can we really have in that? Speaking about the voters, yeah, I could go on for, we could do a whole nother episode on this, because I'll say, even police, even within law enforcement, when the election was coming up, some of the conversations I had with fellow police officers about justice and crime and different things. And it's like, you just see how, I'm going to say, uneducated they are on a lot of topics. And that's not to say that I'm the most educated, but I actually go out and seek out a lot of this knowledge. You don't see that from people nowadays. The public doesn't demand enough of the politicians, but then they also aren't doing enough themselves and seeking out information and asking questions. It's just easy to read the headline, whatever it is, and that's now your opinion, and you just kind of regurgitate that in all your social settings, and everybody else just picks that up, and that eventually becomes the narrative, and that's very dangerous. But yeah, when we were coming up to the election, I remember some of the conversations I was having about just some crime and different things with people. And I go, hey, have you read this speech that this person gave? Oh, I saw it on TikTok or on Instagram, and they said this. I'm like, yeah, that's literally 2 sentences. If you watch the full 20, 30 minutes, you'll know the whole context that they were speaking to it in. And then you get a clearer picture of what they're actually talking about. Because in one, it can be very damning. And then the other, when you're watching the full context, you're like, oh, this is why they said that, or this is what they were actually talking about. And they use this 2 sentences as an example what some other person said. But we are not getting that from the public. So yeah, I think it's, it can be very dangerous. And that is something that, I post on social media a lot about this. Cal Krusty's another person who posts some really good stuff when we talk about fentanyl in communities, but also Canada as a net exporter and how much is actually going to the US. There's a lot more going on than what is actually getting told to the public, a lot more. But it just becomes politicized. And you're like, well, how do we actually protect people if we're not going to talk about the truth? We're going to tell the truth and then do it in a genuine way. So I think a lot of that is missing.
Yeah, it is. And Nathan, just getting back to, you were talking about the controversial characters. You're right. We like to do that because you're right. People need to be jolted sometimes. You may, there may be a flavor going on, but sometimes we just need to hear something else out there. So we don't need to get politics into this conference. It's totally awareness, education, and you take it and you do what you need to do with it. But speaking of elected officials, municipal leaders also are another group that really need to understand the issues of what's going on in their communities. And I'm not saying a lot of them are, but there's a lot of people that sit in seats that have no idea. And it's all about status. It's all about looking good on the resume. And you know what? That does nothing for your communities. And I saw a lot of that in my time. And I go, come on, you guys. Like, it's more than just sitting in the chair. And especially in your rural communities, you've got stuff going on. And we just kind of want to pretend it's not there. So I agree with you. Like, and also I found it also very hard to talk to a lot of provincial and federal elected people because they had no clue, right? And it's very difficult to talk like that or to talk to them. Yeah.
And I'll add on that. So one of the things I was doing before I promoted out of our gang unit, through the podcast, I was getting some guests on from the municipal politics and the provincial side. And what I was doing was getting people out on ride-alongs. And I'm a huge critic of the whole, like, the politician out there kissing and hugging the babies and just handing out water. I'm like, sure, that's your photo op. Like, but that is not the job day in and day out of what law enforcement is doing.
Right.
Like, we're trying to find real predators, real bad guys out there. And so I was able to bring out some people and actually show them, like, this is where we have to hang out. These are the people we have to deal with so that you don't have to deal with them.
Good for you.
And I saw, I'll say I saw a material change in the way some of them, not all of them, but some of them talked about law enforcement, or at least gave pause to putting out those flippant comments on social media, or what they might say to the press or something. And I thought that was the most impactful thing that I had seen in a long time. And it was just getting people out and showing them the real job. It's like, not everything is about a photo op. Like, I'm actually going to teach you. I'm going to show you. And it's more impactful than just everybody going and sitting in council and we're just giving stories, but I can't convey it, like, unless you're some wordsmith and you can make people cry by just telling them stuff. Seeing is believing. And that was the most impactful thing, I think, by far. So
no. And on the same type of topic, my troop mate and I, when we were posted in Moncton, New Brunswick, we had judges come. They were interested in, it was called the breathalyzer. It's called an intoxilizer now, or maybe they have a different instrument to measure your breath sample. And so we had a lot of impaired drivers that were going through court. And so we brought the two provincial court judges to the RCMP station. My troop mate was a breath tech, and we started pouring them drinks, and we measured their blood alcohol content. And they were surprised. The one judge said at 0.03, he said, I wouldn't even go near a vehicle.
Yeah.
At 0.03. And then our blood alcohol limit in Canada is 0.08. Right. So it just giving them that information changed their entire, thought about people who came before them in court when they were over the legal limit.
Yeah. So those education pieces, critical, super critical.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way we can really get to a solid prevention strategy. But it's like, how do we get these people in, the decision makers, the policy makers, the ones that have the funding? How do we get them in front of the right people that have the right intentions and convey the message that we need to be delivered? So, one of the things I wanted to make sure we just discuss too is just the priorities right now for your group. So, what are some of the things that you're educating on? And do you have any kind of campaigns or anything that you're running around this? So, what's kind of your focus right now as a group?
Well, we just finished our strategic plan last August. So that's being put together with our business plan, which we can make sure you have a copy of that whenever we get it back from our webmaster. Initiatives is to build the membership, to take a leadership role in the province, which I see us doing more and more all the time. And also making that connection. And it's not just through emails or a phone call. A lot of it has to be that personal connection. I can't emphasize that enough. I love emails. Yeah, they're great. Phone calls are great. But boy, whenever I talk to somebody in person or even through a virtual media, it makes a big difference as to what is going on. But I find in person or touring facilities or going into their space and really listening to what they are doing. So I think the next year will be, Becky and I will be doing a lot with membership, cultivating our existing membership, looking at new membership, looking at new partners, which we've already kind of started extending ourselves out to, and looking at our strategic plan and going, okay, what are we needing to do here? But to me, I look at this, a lot of it as when I was in the banking industry, you had to do a lot of cold calls, especially during certain seasons, right? Investment, this kind of stuff. And personally, I love cold calls. Just put me in an office with a list of names and phone numbers and whatever, and I could cultivate that relationship. And then I would follow it up with a visit, right? And not saying, well, you're going to have to do this, but how can we help you and start getting involved in their everyday life and whatever, because all communities, whether they're 25 kilometers apart or 150 kilometers apart, no community has the same issues. Yeah, similar issues, but usually there's other factors in there. So that's probably one of our main initiatives this year, is to kind of, since we've done the restructuring, we have got things in place, processes in place, which we can always improve on, but it's also getting out there and making those connections with a lot of people.
Okay. One thing I was going to ask too is, is there specific areas of Alberta that are struggling more than others? Like, is there a north-south divide you find, east-west, or is it certain communities of a certain size? So getting like kind of right into the statistics data type stuff, but is there a specific place or geographic location where you're seeing right now that people are struggling more to dealing with crime and the prevention side of it?
Well, one of our things that, and since I've been on the board, is I've always wanted more of our Indigenous neighbors to be coming to our conference. And so this year, I think we had quite a large cohort of Indigenous people coming to our conference, and it's been awesome. And I think some of those communities are struggling a bit more with issues happening on reserve, not even like our Métis community. We had a large contingent come from a Métis community up north to our conference this year. And I know I was speaking with them, and they were saying that they were having, quite a bit of struggles and things like that. So in addition to Indigenous communities, I think also remote rural are having some big issues as well with theft. And then too, one of our speakers was talking about, the copper wire issue. And I think our oil field, groups are having issues with having to repair, wires from copper thefts off of, facilities and things like that. And same with Kansas City's Canadian Pacific, the railway.
Yeah.
They've had some copper wire theft, and that's a big problem for them because those are the wires that run the lights on the train tracks. So that's not a good thing, right?
We see people stripping that out of everywhere, like literally anywhere. We have new home builds. People go in and strip it out of there. And then the other day we had somebody who was just taking like old radiators and putting them in acid baths or something like that, and trying to just get to like materials inside of it. Just if they put those efforts to do all that crime into like one good thing, they'd be really successful at it. But for some reason, they choose to go a different direction. Talking about the Indigenous side of it, I saw, I think it was Siksika Nation. They are moving toward their own police service or
Mm-hmm.
exploring the idea. I don't know exactly where they are in the process, but I saw it on social
Mm-hmm.
media. And that was something I talked to Chief Blake out of
Mm-hmm.
Sutina
Mm-hmm.
First Nation.
Sutina. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
just how they they're in like a unique situation where they have provincial government, it has the jurisdiction over law enforcement, but then they have treaties with the federal government. So they
Yeah.
kind of got like two people they got to answer to. And it's
Yeah.
very convoluted and complicated. But I know some of those groups, some of the nations there, they are looking at their own police services.
Yeah.
Whether that's an answer to the specific things that we're talking about, I don't know if that's their intent, but it's just there's a lot of things at play and a lot of development going on here. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how those work out.
Yeah.
And, if they get the numbers of applicants that they want, and hopefully
Yeah.
they can provide that coverage that they need. So, but I
Yeah.
think having those police right in that community, at least will open the door for conversations about things
Yeah.
such as what we're talking about, the prevention side, education. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see how it could hurt in any way. I think it would only help in that sense.
Yeah. And I agree, Nathan. And does not the Blood Confederacy have their own police force in southern Alberta?
Yeah.
And Coal Lake was looking at it as well.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
personally don't. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. And actually, the Lethbridge Polytech did those micro credentials for police going into Aboriginal communities. They're micro credentials, so they deal with a lot of the social issues and whatever. So no, and here we get back to that rural. Only it's Aboriginal. Like if you're not of Aboriginal culture, I personally wonder sometimes, do you really, really understand what has all gone on? Like there's so much in that background that I think sometimes, I'm not saying an Aboriginal policeman would understand it, but he has a better she or he have a better understanding of the culture and what has all come from the past kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I personally think it's a really good idea because I know out west here, Sunshine and Ochese, there's a lot of resources spent on RCMP units going out there a lot. And so, like you say, that whether it's good or bad, I don't know. But personally, I think it's something that should be explored by a lot of them. Yeah.
That's just kind of bringing us near the end of time here. Last thing I usually get someone to do is tell us where they can find you and your work. So, website, social media. If you got a conference coming up right away,
We do.
I know you just finished the one, but yeah, anything you'd like to kind of plug, feel free. Tell us where people can find you and follow you.
Well, the website is probably the best, www.albertacrimeprevention.com. We have a social media tree. So we're on, I believe, all the social media platforms. And anybody wants to get hold of Becky or myself, executive director at Alberta Community Crime Prevention, and Becky will have a similar address once she gets as of June 1st. So and conference already planned for the Westin by the airport, Calgary, 2026, May 4th through the 6th. The U of C students have done a framework for us, which is a project that we work with them each year. And it's a pretty darn good framework. Actually, we can send you a copy of the framework. It's amazing. A lot of emphasis on cybercrime, cyber safety, that kind of stuff. And there's restorative justice in there. There's a lot of different options, human trafficking, a lot of things. They've given us a selection of speakers. So we will be formulating our committee August, and then will be the committee will be going out to speakers and making arrangements and whatever. So yeah.
All right.
So we had actually we had a conversation this morning with Megan Normando. She did the PR with the with the media outlets and the French CBC. He got back to us on Friday and just thanked us for accommodating. Frank Nadeau was able to speak in French to him. So I did go back and I said, we're going to have our 2026, blah, 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 Calgary. And he came back and he said, already got it marked to my calendar. I'll be there. So it's starting to happen.
Nice. Very nice.
Already. Yeah, no kidding.
I want to say thanks for being on here today. I really appreciate you taking the time to educate us and the listeners and kind of getting the word out there. So I encourage people to definitely check out the website, go to the conference if you get a chance, and I'll share where I can.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Nathan, for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening in and following along with the discussions. Be sure to click the follow or subscribe button on your respective listening platform. Also, check out the Quiet Professional on X and Instagram under TQP780. And most importantly, please share where you can. Everyone has a part to play in getting these education and information pieces out there, so pass it along. Thanks again.